Hello, YouTubers. Joe Kersey here. Now, it just so happens I'm on September 26th on Thursday, about 2:13 in the afternoon Eastern Time. But that's neither here nor there. I'll probably upload this here maybe a day or two from now, if maybe 3 or 4 days from now. But I wanted to discuss with you, and this is well, I'm sure I'll stray over into some of the more humorous things about this, but I wanted to discuss with you something relatively serious. Now, in today's Wall Street Journal, there was an article called Robots versus Anesthesiologists, and that's September 26th in the Wall Street Journal. I urge anybody who's imminently planning to have some sort of sedation under procedure, such as a colonoscopy or maybe an upper endoscopy, or for that matter, maybe even a some sort of local anesthetic procedure. I guess at the end of the article they discussed possibly having kids, ear tube insertions done under this technique. To read this and think carefully about this, what it is it's a machine developed by Johnson & Johnson called Sept. Isn't that a neat name? Sept. It's sedation and an assistant. Just for you. No nasty human high-billing anesthesiologist to be inserted between you and the machine. So that's what's called Sept. It's made by Johnson & Johnson. And, well, what it is apparently they've got some algorithms. Now, I've not seen one of these. So I've not seen one of these, but I have a pretty good idea what it's going to be. There's a picture of one here. Let's show the picture of it. See, there's a picture of one. Kind of looks like a friendly trash can, doesn't it? See, it's like the two dials up there. It looks like some eyes, little offset eyes, maybe like a wall-eyed robot, but oh, how friendly, how helpful. So anyway, that's what it looks like. Now, they say it monitors oxygen and so forth, and that's fine, and probably does. I'll take their word for it. But see, the issue is this is designed to administer Propofol. Propofol, otherwise known as 1,6-diisopropylphenol. Now, Propofol, upwards of 25 years ago, basically revolutionized intravenous anesthesia in the United States. Hell, the world. Well, it was, like a lot of stuff, it was already over in Europe long before it came to the United States. This drug acts exactly like thiopental, or as some people call it, sodium pentothal, or as the less enlightened call truth serum. The problem with sodium thiopental, or thiopental sodium, more properly, is that it's a barbiturate and it hangs around. Now, the great thing about Propofol is that it's incredibly fat soluble, which means it goes immediately into the brain, and at the same time, if you don't give any more of it, it immediately comes back out of the brain, and you wake up. Then it scampers off to hide in the liver, which rapidly, metabolizes this drug. So it's as close to an ideal intravenous induction and maintenance agent as you can get, at least currently. short of some sort of gas that's instantaneous in, instantaneous on, instantaneous out, instantaneous off. Cyclopropane was close to that, but it blew up, and it also had some other potential problems in terms of bradycardia and hypertension, which sometimes you wanted. It was ideal for aortic valve surgery, for aortic stenosis surgery in the early days. But, well, that's medical history, isn't it? Of course, I love medical history. Now, to get back to the point, so I always hated these sedation cases. First of all, I thought my talents were wasted. That's very arrogant, but that's the truth of the matter. I thought my talents were wasted. I thought my talents could have been far better applied in a, some sort of massively challenging pharmacologic and physiologic, anatomic problem that required, well, somebody like myself. And, a good surgeon, and let's do it. I like to call them a rip 'em up. Let's do a rip 'em up. Go in there and do it. Save these folks. But people who need colonoscopies need taken care of too, obviously. Hell, it saved Paul's life. And in the early days, and by early days I mean back in the mid-late 80s, because my OR experience ended in 1991 when I pulled the pin and hit the silk. Still, one hears things. We generally weren't asked to involve ourselves in these things called local standbys. Now, as again I said, local standby is a misnomer, but except for people who were very sick and maybe squirrely, and so these were relatively challenging people to deal with anyway. And then and at that point we didn't have any good drugs. We had a number of drugs that could almost do the job, but not quite. So what you ended up doing was you'd end up giving these people a cocktail of stuff. A little this, a little that. Hold their hand, yak to them. I am not a fan of hand holding and yakking, I'll tell you. That's one reason I went to anesthesia, guys. Anyway, that's what you did, because that's what you do. I mean, you take care of somebody, don't you? So, and it just, and sometimes these people would end up in La La Land, and they take them a while to wake up in the recovery room. Of course, then people would be pissing and moaning about how long it took them to wake up. Well, they were awake. They were just out of it. I mean, they were out of their head. Well, if, they could have manned up and shut up and dealt with it, then they wouldn't have needed us, would they? On the other hand, some people can't help it, obviously. There's always a tendency to think less of them for that, though, isn't there? Even though we shouldn't. That's just called being a human being, folks. That's just the way it is. So anyway, they've come up with this device, and all right, so there's a lot of discussion about the economics of this, and these evil anesthesiologists, their average salary, they say, it's interesting, salary, not income, salary, as if they're out there on a job site. Now, there's nothing wrong with being a hired hand, if that's what you want to be. And they say their average salary is $286,000. Okay, that's fine. My average self-employed income, well, I can't say I had an average. It fluctuated. It started out very low, and then I hit a high of a gross income of $411,000 one year. But there was a range there toward the last 6 years or so of my practice, where I was making between 360 and 380. But see, that wasn't a salary. That was me giving a service, sending a bill, getting paid. Sometimes people didn't pay me, fine. Sometimes they can't. So you say, okay. And sometimes, and most times people paid me most or at least a significant part of what my bill was. There are a lot of billing games, So it's very interesting. They gave a figure of between $200 and $400,000. $200 and $400 for the fee on a colonoscopy. Well, I got thinking about, that's not too far out of line. Now you admittedly, now see that's today's dollars, which means it's far lower than it was when I was charging. From some sort of local gnats are besetting me. Stop it, go away. Standby procedure, you'd have, first of all, you have your time units. There's 4 units an hour. Every 15 minutes is a unit. And then you have various charges, units assigned for a procedure. And then you have, extra units that can be tacked on according to the patient's health or medical condition. Excuse me. So let's say your average colonoscopy for some of these, complicated patients that aren't going to be easy in and easy out. That's going to take, well, let's just say it's going to take 75 minutes. Now, it usually took longer. Let's just say 75 minutes, 5 units, okay? And then you've got the procedure itself, which is a standard 3-unit charge. So we're up to 8 units. And most of these people who I got involved with were sick people. And so that's an extra unit, so 9 units. So and at the end of my practice, well, my average charge, now that's my charge, that's my actual bill. That may not be what I get paid by Medicare, and that may not be what I decide to accept. I mean, I may accept the Medicare or I may balance bill, but I don't even know if you can do that now, but you could then. And so my bill would have been between $320 and either $320 or $360 for the most part. Well, I mean, now at that point, as I said, we weren't using Propofol. Now, I'll tell you, it would have scared me to death to use Propofol. Well, no, it wouldn't scare me to death. I'd just, if I had to, I'd just stick a tube in if they stopped breathing. That's what you're there for. Never be scared in the OR. Never run to a code. But no, I mean, see, and this is what people don't appreciate about Propofol, is that it's got a very narrow, let's see if I can do this right on the video screen, a very narrow sort of way it works. You've got sort of a period there where it's a very sort of low, flat, straight line. Oh, you start and you get kind of la-la land and sedated, and that's fine. And then you get, anybody who's done a elementary quantitative analysis course or even a standard freshman chemistry course where you've done a acid-base titration curve knows that you get, you hit a point where it goes zoom, real straight up, real fast, and then it flattens out again. And that's the way Propofol works. Now, that's not the way a lot of other anesthetic drugs although some do. But most have more of a flatter, smoother, when you're going to get into trouble, you get a little bit of a warning. This is not the case with propofol. And when you stop breathing, you stop breathing. Boom. It's not like you slow down. You know, it's not like you get sort of slower and slower and slower. No, you just stop breathing. Now, the article makes a big thing about your heart stopping. Well, that obviously, no, it's you get respiratory arrest, before you get cardiac arrest with propofol, as is the case with most anesthetic drugs, actually. But well, this is not the way I'd want to have my colonoscopy done. I'd like to have a trained human being in there, and particularly if they're using propofol. Now, if they're going to give me some, midazolam, also known as Versed, and have some nurse yak at me, for a while, and I can tolerate some pain, then that's okay. I don't need this. I don't need that kind of propofol sedation. I might not remember it, but it's not like I'm going to actually be sort of almost, but not quite officially out, as people say. Oh, were you out? Oh, yes, I was out. Well, you don't know. People who say that don't know. Are they out according to anesthesia standards? No. Are they out according to their standards? Well, if they say they're out by their standards. Until you start questioning them really closely, which is never a good thing to do. Let's not dredge up those memories. We don't want to hear the memory of the surgeon talking about how you're a fat dumbass, do we? No, we don't want to hear that. We don't want to dredge that memory up. That sometimes happens, by the way. Well, maybe it doesn't now, since we're all very politically correct. But I can tell you it did then. Well, anyway, it's a useful article to look at, and I encourage anybody who's anticipating getting one of these procedures done, and particularly if you're going to have this magic robot, help you out. The operative word here being help you out. You might want to consider that. So it's robots versus anesthesiologists. It's in the Wall Street Journal of September 26, 2013. So I highly recommend it to you. It's not bad as these articles go. Who wrote this? Jonathan D. Rockoff. Well, he's not an absolute moron, is he? It's a fairly reasonable piece. So, on that note, I'm going to shut up. Thank the good Lord. All righty. Bye-bye.